Hello there, I'm John Holt from Fox 4 News and prostate cancer survivor.
I'm David Emerson with the Faith, Love, Hope, Win Foundation, and John and I are going to talk a little bit today about our relationship and our separate but somewhat linked battles with prostate cancer.
Linked by social networking too.
Yeah.
You reached out to me on Facebook. We didn't know each other prior to our
of all things about of all things with Facebook, there's a million Facebook stories out there. But about a year and a half ago, around Father's Day weekend, I was checking out Facebook one day, and my wife and I are fans and watch John most evenings at 9 o'clock.
I have too. That's great. Thank you.
And he and I had linked up through a mutual friend, but he had posted something on Facebook on Father's Day that said, guys, get tested early. If you get tested early, get tested and it's found early and it's a localized prostate cancer, the cure rate's in the upper 90%. So I reached out to John and just sent him a note and said, hey, I'm a fan, you don't know me, but we're friends on Facebook, and if you ever want to go have coffee and chat, let's do it, and here's my story, and I gave him a link to my blog and some other stuff, and you can take it from there.
Well, we took off, eventually did when I was up to it, met for coffee and really became fast friends. I think we would have been friends anyway. We have that sort of quirky humor, and except for the MUKU thing, I think we get along just fine. But your story is fascinating as well because you've dealt with it much longer than I did. You continue to fight that battle, but you and your wife Mary have taken it and made it a positive with your foundation and raising money, and I've been privileged to be a part of some of those events. And that foundation, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with it, because you've raised thousands of dollars.
Yeah, as John mentioned, Mary and I, right after I was diagnosed, founded this foundation called the Faith, Love, Hope, Win Foundation. And the point of the foundation is to raise awareness and, more importantly, raise much needed money for additional research to find treatments that we need and perhaps one day a cure. But through that foundation, just locally here in Kansas City, we've raised, by the end of 2011, it'll be about $230,000 to $240,000 that we in turn turn over to the Prostate Cancer Foundation, which is a group based in California that primarily focuses 100%, not primarily, they focus 100% of their fundraising efforts to raising money for prostate cancer research, new cures, new treatments for men like you and I, whether it's an early stage or a late stage.
One of the things that you and I really bonded about, not just the work that you and Mary are doing in your board, but also early detection. And we've talked about that over and over to anyone who will listen, whether it's on social networking or speaking publicly or in Kimberly's article in 435 South, and that is, guys, get tested. Don't wait.
Right. It's a simple blood test. It takes maybe 5 minutes. It's a blood draw from your arm. Your general practitioner can run it. If you want to go to a specialist, your urologist, they can run it. But the PSA test, or a prostate-specific antigen test, is something that can be done in minutes. And the test is one thing, but what you do from that point forward is equally as important. There's a lot of controversy right now about the test, and are we over-testing men? I'm of the opinion that we're not screening too many men, but perhaps we are operating on too many men or too early. It's a very detailed conversation that you need to have with a specialist, not your general practitioner, but you need to go see a urologist, perhaps a radiation specialist. But there's a lot of different options, and waiting is one of them, and I think that's what the controversy is.
The range of treatment options is amazing, but you have to have a base. You have to start somewhere, and particularly for those of you who have a family history. I learned very quickly, my dad had prostate cancer, my grandfather had it. I knew it was coming, I just didn't think it would come at the age I was at. But the key for me was getting that PSA test. And then I could make a decision on what I wanted to do.
And then there's other cases like mine where I was tested early. I was 41 years old when I had my first PSA test. That led to something a little bit more serious in that my prostate cancer had already metastasized to bone and lymph nodes. If I had been tested at 35, would they have found it? Maybe. If I'd have been tested at 38 or 39, it was probably already outside the prostate bed, but and that might not have bought me any more time. But because I had a very good general practitioner who listened to the symptoms and listened to what I was talking about, ran the PSA test, that raised the red flag, and that led to a biopsy and a bone scan and a CT scan. And nearly 7 years later, I'm still here. And hopefully 6 or 7 years later, we can film another.
Let's do it again. And as part of that, you're now undergoing some of the treatment that your foundation raises money to benefit. And so that I can see it's a labor of love, real passion for you.
Right, right. I've been through all the traditional treatments for advanced stage prostate cancer. There is no cure. So those are all just palliative care to keep you going and going and going. I've been fortunate. I mean, I know a lot of guys that have been through most of these treatments with me, and some of them succumb to the disease, and other ones are farther in the battle. I mean, they're on a lot of pain meds and in a lot of pain. Me, I'm fortunate. I have some pain that I deal with on a daily basis, but I've been through the standard treatments. In January, I started going back and forth to Atlanta on a biweekly basis for a clinical trial. That drug, Zytiga, was approved in May, but it didn't work for me. So I had to find another clinical trial, which the Prostate Cancer Foundation, as you mentioned, is helping fund some of this research. And now I have to go to Boston every 3 weeks. And it's a burden on me and on my family. It's not as expensive as I would have thought, but I'm fortunate enough that it's a doctor appointment and here's your new vial of pills, and I get on a plane and come back in the same day, and it's a couple $100s. There's other experimental treatments out there that just aren't affordable for guys because it's like a chemo infusion where you have to go somewhere for several days and spend a night, and it just doesn't work out. So not to get into that much detail, but our foundation is trying to raise as much money as possible so the Prostate Cancer Foundation can continue to help support drugs like Zytiga and the drug I'm on, which is called XL184, and there's MD3100, and there's a whole myriad of drugs that are in the pipeline that are being developed.
Well, and I salute you, my friend, because you've taken something that could easily have been a real devastating diagnosis and just let it go. And I know you explained that in the first few days there were those dark moments, but then you guys picked yourselves up and said, let's make something out of this. And here we are 7 years later, and the work you and Mary and your board and foundation are doing is fabulous. And I want to thank you for letting me be a small part of that and help out where I can. And you know, again, it's raising awareness, it's raising money, and it's getting guys to just, you know, get that test. It's not hard. So, and we speak to women too. We say, look, get your boyfriend, your husband, your dad, whatever the case may be. You have a man in your life who should be tested.
Yeah, because guys will sit around and not do anything. And,
we procrastinate, don't we?
And the ladies, on the other hand, will prod them and poke them until they get them into the doctor. So.
And a big thanks to Kimberly and 435 South, because we can get our message out, but we have to have help doing that, and it's pretty cool to be a part of that. And an award-winning Kimberly Stern as well.
Exactly. As John mentioned, Kimberly was just awarded the American Cancer Society High Plains Division Journalist. It was the magazine category for journalism, excellence in journalism.
It's a fabulous award. By the way, the High Plains includes Hawaii, so maybe she gets to go to Hawaii to get the award. If so, we're going along.
Exactly.
Don't you think?
We're
award winners too. Exactly. So thank you, Kimberly and 435 South, and thank you for all you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, John.